This is the story of Ruth. It's taken from the Bible, but it's been modernized, so be aware of that. However, the content is the same. There was a famine in the land where Elimelech, his wife Naomi, and their two sons Mahlon and Chilion lived. So they left Bethlehem in Judah and settled in a land called Moab. Elimelech died, and his wife Naomi was left with her two sons. The sons married Moabite women, Orpah and Ruth. They lived there for 10 years. Then Mahlon and Chilion both died. Naomi was left with no husband and no sons. Naomi had heard that the famine was no longer an issue in Bethlehem. God had provided a good harvest there, so she decided to move back. So she and her two daughters-in-law headed to Bethlehem in the land of Judah. After a short while, Naomi stopped and told the two girls, Go back home to your families. May God treat you as graciously as you have treated your husbands and me. May God give each of you a new home and a new husband. Naomi kissed them and they cried out aloud, No, we're going with you to your people. Naomi said firmly, Go back. Why would you come with me? Do you think I can have more sons who would become your future husbands? Go back, on your way, please. I'm too old to have another husband. And even if I did and had sons, can you imagine how long you would have to wait until they are grown? Would you wait that long to be married again? No. This is a bitter pill for me to swallow, more bitter for me than all of you. God has dealt me a hard blow. Orpah and Ruth cried out aloud. Orpah kissed Naomi goodbye, but Ruth embraced Naomi and held on. Naomi said, Look, your sister-in-law is going back home to live with her people and her gods. Go with her. Ruth said, Don't force me to leave you. Don't make me go home. Where you go, I go. And where you live, I'll live. Your people are my people, and your God is my God. Where you die, I'll die, and that's where I'll be buried. So help me God. Not even death itself is going to come between us. When Naomi saw that Ruth had her heart set on going with her, she gave in. And so the two of them traveled on to Bethlehem. They arrived in town and it was buzzing. They were saying, Is this really our Naomi after all this time? Naomi said, Don't call me Naomi, call me bitter. The strong one has dealt me a bitter blow. I left here full of life, and God has brought me back with nothing but the clothes on my back. Why would you call me Naomi? God certainly doesn't. The strong one ruined me. And so Naomi was back in Bethlehem, and Ruth, the foreigner, with her, back from the country of Moab, and it was the beginning of the harvest season. Naomi had a relative by marriage connected with Elimelech's family. His name was Boaz, and he was very prominent and rich. Ruth said to Naomi, I'm going to work. I'm going out to see if there's a farm where I can work and where they will treat me kindly. Naomi said, Go ahead. So Ruth set out to find work. She went to several farms where there were others working. She ended up on a farm owned by Boaz, Elimelech's relative. After a while, Boaz showed up. He said, God be with you. The field hands said, and also with you. To the foreman, Boaz said, Who is this young woman? Where did she come from? The foreman said, Why, that's the Moabite girl, the one who came with Naomi from the country of Moab. She asked permission. Let me work, she said, and gather some eggs and some vegetables after your workers. She's been at it steady ever since, from earlier morning until now, without so much as a break. Boaz strolled over and spoke to Ruth. He said, Hey, listen, from now on, don't go to any other farm to work. Stay right here on this one, and stay close to my young women. Watch where they are working and follow them, and don't worry about a thing. I've given orders to my servants not to harass you. When you get thirsty, feel free to go and drink from the water buckets that my servants have filled. Ruth, dropping to her knees, her face bowed to the ground, said, How does this happen, that you should pick me out and treat me so kindly, me, a foreigner? Boaz said, I've heard all about you, heard about the way you treated your mother-in-law after the death of her husband, and how you left your father and mother and the land of your birth, and have come to live among a bunch of total strangers. God reward you well for what you've done, and with a generous bonus besides from God, to whom you've come seeking protection under his wings. Ruth said, Oh, sir, such grace, such kindness, I don't deserve it. You've touched my heart, treated me like one of your own, and I don't even belong here. At the lunch break, Boaz said to Ruth, Come over here, have some food, there's plenty. So Ruth joined the farmhands. Boaz passed the food to her. She ate her fill and even had some left over. Ruth got up to go back to work, and Boaz said to his servants, "Let her work where it's clean and dry. Make it easy for her. Better yet, pull some of the good vegetables out and leave it for her. Give her special treatment." Ruth worked in the field until evening. When she looked at what she had gathered, she ended up with nearly a full sack of vegetables. She took it, went back into town, and showed her mother-in-law the results of her day's work. She also gave her the leftovers from her lunch. Naomi said, "So where did you work today? Whose farm? God bless whoever it was who took such good care of you." Ruth said, "The man with whom I worked today? His name was Boaz." Naomi said, "Why, God bless that man. God hasn't quite walked out on us after all. He still loves us in bad times as well as good. That man, Ruth, is one of our circle of covenant redeemers, a close relative of ours." Ruth said, "Well, listen to this. He also told me, 'Stay close to my young women until my harvesting is finished.'" Naomi said, "That's wonderful, dear daughter. Do that. You'll be safe in the company of his young women, no danger now of being harassed on some stranger's farm." So Ruth did it. She stuck close to Boaz's young women, working in the fields daily until all harvesting was finished, and she continued living with her mother-in-law. Naomi said to Ruth, "My dear, isn't it about time I arranged a good home for you so you can have a happy life? And isn't Boaz our close relative, the one with whose young women you've been working? Maybe it's time to make our move. Tonight is the night of Boaz's harvest party. Take a bath, put on some perfume, get all dressed up and go to the party. But don't let him know you're there until the party is well underway and he has had plenty of food and drink. When you see him step out, watch where he goes and then follow him. Strike up a conversation with him and let him know that you are available to him for marriage by moving your ring from the left hand to the right. Then wait and see what he says. He'll tell you what to do." Ruth said, "If you say so, I'll do it, just as you've told me." So she went down to the harvest party and put her mother-in-law's plan into action. Boaz had a good time, eating and drinking his fill. He felt great. Then he stepped out to get some air, leaning on the fence next to the field. Ruth quietly followed. She started a conversation with him and made it apparent that she was available for marriage by moving her ring from her left hand to her right. Ruth said to Boaz, "I am Ruth, your maiden. Take me under your protecting wing. You're my close relative, you know, in the circle of covenant redeemers. You do have the right to marry me." Boaz said, "God bless you. What a splendid expression of love. And when you could have had your pick of any of the young men around. And now, my dear, don't you worry about a thing. I'll do all you want and all you ask. Everybody in town knows what a courageous woman you are, a real prize. You're right. I am a close relative to you, but there is one even closer than I am. In the morning, if he wants to exercise his customary rights and responsibilities as the closest covenant redeemer, he'll have his chance. But if he isn't interested, as God lives, I'll do it. Now go back to the party." Ruth stayed at the party all night, but decided to leave just before daylight so she wouldn't be recognized. Boaz said to himself, "No one must know that Ruth came to the party." He said to Ruth, "Bring a sack over here and hold it." She grabbed the sack and opened it. He filled it with fresh vegetables and put it on her shoulders. Then she went back to town. Naomi said to Ruth, "And how did things go, my dear?" Ruth told her everything that the man had done for her. Then she said, "And he gave me all these vegetables too, a whole sack. He told me, 'You can't go back empty-handed to your mother-in-law.'" Naomi said, "Sit back and relax, my dear, until we find out how things turn out. This man isn't going to waste any time. Mark my words, he's going to get everything wrapped up today." Boaz went straight to the public square and took his place there. Before long, the closer relative, the one mentioned earlier by Boaz, strolled by. Boaz said, "Step aside, old friend, take a seat." The man sat down. Boaz, gathering 10 of the town elders together, said, "Sit down here with us. We've got some business to take care of." And they sat down. To the relative, Boaz said, "This piece of property that belonged to our relative Elimelech is being sold by his widow Naomi, who has just returned from the country of Moab. I thought you ought to know about it. Buy it back if you want it. You can make it official in the presence of those sitting here and before the town elders. You have First Redeemer rights. If you don't want it, tell me so I'll know where you stand. You're first in line to do this, and I'm next after you." The relative said, "I'll buy it." Boaz said, You realize, don't you, that when you buy the field from Naomi, you also get Ruth the Moabite, the widow of our deceased relative, along with the Redeemer responsibility to have children with her to carry on the family inheritance. The relative said, "Oh, I can't do that. I jeopardize my own family's inheritance. You go ahead and buy it. You have my rights. I can't do it." In the olden times in Israel, this is how they handled official business regarding matters of property and inheritance. A man would take off his shoe and give it to the other person. This was the same as an official seal or personal signature in Israel. So, when Boaz's Redeemer relative said, "Go ahead and buy it," he signed the deal by pulling off his shoe. Boaz, speaking to the elders and the people, said, "You are witnesses today that I have bought from Naomi everything that belonged to Elimelech and Kilion and Mahlon, including responsibility for Ruth the foreigner, the widow of Mahlon. I'll take her as my wife and keep the name of the deceased alive along with his inheritance. The memory and reputation of the deceased is not going to disappear out of this family or from his hometown. To all this you are witnesses this very day." The elders and the people of the town proclaimed, "Yes, we are witnesses. May God make this woman who is coming into your household like Rachel and Leah, the two women who built the family of Israel. May God make you a pillar in Ephrathah and famous in Bethlehem. With the children God gives you from this young woman, may your family rival the family of Perez, the son Tamar bore to Judah." Boaz married Ruth. She became his wife. By God's gracious gift, she conceived and had a son. The town women said to Naomi, "Blessed be God. He didn't leave you without family to carry on your life. May this baby grow up to be famous in Israel. He'll make you young again. He'll take care of you in old age. And this daughter-in-law who has brought him into the world and loves you so much, why, she's worth more to you than 7 sons." Naomi took the baby and held him in her arms, cuddling him, cooing over him, and waiting on him hand and foot. The neighborhood women started calling him Naomi's baby boy, but his real name was Obed. Obed was the father of Jesse, and Jesse the father of David. This is the family tree of Perez. Perez had Hezron. Hezron had Ram. Ram had Amminadab. Amminadab had Nahshon. Nahshon had Salmon. Salmon had Boaz. Boaz had Obed. Obed had Jesse. And Jesse had David.